Hi, good afternoon, Naimul, and all of our friends listening to us from home. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. Jacopo, thank you so much for being here. We are very thankful that EBAN could join us today. This talk will also be part of our video library of SweBAN talks. So if people are not joining in now, they'll be able to see this later on. But for the knowledge of our community, Jacopo, you are our cherished guest over here. We'd like to know more about you and how you came into EBAN and what you do there.
Yeah, of course, happy to share the story. So I'm Italian. I was born in the small city in the northeast of Italy called Udine, famous among those that may know a little bit about football, but it's a relatively small town. And then I ended up studying management and finance in Milan, in Bocconi University, and began building up an interest in entrepreneurship and specifically in venture finance, which I found particularly fascinating while studying because for the first time I was reading about the concept of smart money, um, which at least at the time for me was relatively unknown. I thought money was only money, but it could also become smart. Um, if given out by certain kinds of investors. And so that's where my initial interests around also angel investing began. And coincidentally, when I finished my studies and graduated through my university, I found an opportunity to dive into this world. Um, we're talking about 2014, 2015 years. And that's where I found EBAN. That was at the time looking for a new recruit to join their team. So that ended up being me. And I began my experience with that entity in beginning of 2015, joining the team in Brussels. And let's say that from there, I then started to make my first steps as a marketing intern initially, covering our comms and our social media and our newsletters and so on. And then developed a really great working relationship with the president of EBAN at the time and with the board of EBAN at the time, who entrusted me with the role of director of the association only after a couple of months following a, I guess, rather good internship. And from there, let's say that I focused on really building up the EBAN to the level that you can find it nowadays. So it was interesting to start in a moment where EBAN was going through a transition between a previous board and president and a new board and president. And in the meanwhile, there were also some changes in the team. And I was part of a rebuild of this organization in 2015 and definitely up until 2016. There were a lot of energies spent on putting together again a really good value offering for the community, a team that could power all of the activities that EBAN was to do. And then fortunately we had a lot of great success in this experience. And over the years we've expanded a lot our footprint in terms of membership, but also all of the activities we've done, we've either introduced them new ones where they were absent, or we've scaled up activities such as our conferences and events. And let's say this, I've been a part of a really um, fabulous growth journey that I'm super um, honored and proud to be had, involvement in. And so yeah, that's how things got started, and that's how things evolved. And in the meantime, I also then picked up an interest to invest in startups, um, being inspired by a lot of people around me, but also being well connected to some really professional and experienced investors. I was allowed to do my first small angel deals alongside um, friends and people I found at EBAN, and I'm nowadays a small ticket angel investor in a few companies around Europe, and also leading this association as its director general.
Awesome. Jacopo, thank you so much for a very interesting background. I love it when you talked about smart money, that money can do more than money. So I think that's a great way of looking at it. And also very interesting to learn that you came into a key transition period. And I think that's also something which is even in startup building, that there are certain inflection points when there is a moment something comes in and it can do a massive change. So I think we see a lot of activity. I'm involved in angel investing, startup building, networks building. So we see a lot of amazing work coming from EBAN. It's like a non-stop flurry of initiatives and programs that you're running. So it's great to have that kind of momentum and run the organization at that scale. If we, and of course, your interest also in angel investing, and we'll probably take it in as we build our conversation today. But if we start with, let's say, IBAN, um, and if you could kind of describe it for our listeners and for our community, like what's the organization like? How big is it? What is it like? What's the big mission you're after at IBAN?
So EBAN started off 25 years ago when a group of individual investors that were doing angel investing a little bit on their own, a little bit in a kind of, circle of friends, decided to begin professionalizing how this investment activity is conducted, and furthermore, also to build a network of other people around Europe doing the same thing with whom to work with, collaborate, maybe do deals with, but also learn from each other. So the purpose of EBAN was ultimately, and is still today, to spread and divulge the movement of angel investment far and wide. And officially, we're on a mission to drive successful and responsible angel investing, which basically translates to giving investors and investor groups, clubs of investors, um, added things they need to become successful in this trade, which for us mean basically giving you an enhanced and international network to work with. So today we've developed a community of about 120 investor groups scattered all over Europe. And these are international angel groups that are also open to others in the community to work with and to collaborate with. So we give angels and angel networks a enhanced international network that they can use for their own day-to-day needs. Secondly, we do a lot of work to educate and to train and to professionalize how angels are investing, but not only them, we're also targeting the angel network managers, the people that run and animate angel groups with educational activities and knowledge sharing activities. And I think the really nice thing about this educational work we do is that it's very much peer-to-peer exchanges of best practices where the members, the people part of our association drive these activities and these sessions, conveying their learnings and their experiences. And I think it's a really nice dynamic to help people understand how to approach angel investing, or how to wrap their head around how to do certain deals, or maybe help companies after investment, to have this really come from practitioners, from people that do this and have done this over the years and have acquired a lot of experience in that time. And then last but not least, our association is also representing this category of investors, these professional business angels that we represent towards primarily EU, European Union institutions. And here we are basically representing the market through research, through studies, but also then advocating and working with policymakers to develop solutions that actually deliver on the needs of our community. And particularly, we focus on co-investment instruments that the EU can set up to co-invest with angels. We're working to create a common playing field for startups to grow in Europe, and we're very much involved in inspiring the EU with new legislations, with new reforms that help startups scale up here in Europe. And we're also doing other efforts together with the VC industry players and stakeholders in Brussels to set conditions for the European VC market to also grow and scale up. And this means, for example, attracting institutional investors and ultimately making it easier to launch and set up funds and operate those funds across borders across the EU. So there's a combination of things we do from a networking and education and a representation perspective that are all aligned to EBAN's long-term goal of nurturing angel investment across Europe, making more and more people become investors, but helping those people approach this trade with know-how, with professional standards, so they ultimately are successful investors and enjoy it as well while doing it. So that's what we do at EBAN. The association, as I was saying, involves clubs as our members. We're a non-for-profit association, by the way, but the beneficiaries of our work are both the club themselves that are part of EBAN and all of the people and all of the individual investors linked to those local clubs who are able to access, for example, activities we run, such as webinars, but also conferences, pitching events, EBAN communities, a variety of activities we have for our members are extendable and available also to the individuals part of groups. So that means also for all the SweBAN angels and groups linked to SweBAN, you can get access to this international community and all of the activities that we're powering as part of your affiliation to SweBAN.
Amazing, amazing, Jacopo. Thank you so much for a great summary of all that you're doing at EBAN. You talked about international networks, around 120 investor groups. If you could go in a little bit of detail, like what are these networks like? Are these regional networks? A little bit of detail for our community to understand that.
So our membership includes 2/3 of our members are business angel clubs. These are typically local entities at a city level, sometimes at a region or country level, that have as a main day-to-day model matchmaking between startups looking for funding and a group of investors looking to deploy that capital. So there are clubs, primarily members of EBAN, but we've also included in the association other early stage actors, including federation or umbrella networks that bring together multiple angel clubs. So entities like SweBAN and similar around Europe, bringing together the multiple entities within them. We also then have venture capital seed funds, especially part of our association, given the alignment they have with the moment of investment, and they have also a lot of synergy with the angel world. We have those actors as well as our members. And we have finally what we call some other early stage stakeholders, which include startup accelerators or incubation programs who wish to be linked and work with international angel groups. We also have a few governmental entities, especially promotional banks, promotional agencies that also wish to be up to speed with how the world of angel investing is working and how to best cater to their own community's needs. But I would say 2/3 of our community is made up by clubs of investors, and these are clubs that vary a lot in size. We have members between 40 or so people in the club to all the way up to 600 plus people in the club, and investment activity that varies quite a lot. But on average, I would say our members are around 100, 150 people, angel groups in size that do a handful, maybe 5 to 10 million euros of investment activity on an annual basis. So we measure the market, we take the pulse of this industry. There's roughly 10,000 or so individual business angels, part of the EBAN association, extended through, of course, their affiliation to local clubs that do over 300 million euros of investments every year in startup companies, either locally or across the EU.
Great aggregation of statistics, like 100 plus, how would you say,
Affiliated angels.
yeah, international networks, as you said, then 10,000 EBAN associates, which are individual angels, and 300 million euros. That's the effect. So, really great. And then you also talked about these layers: clubs, federations, VCs, stakeholders, and government entities. Is there any point in this entire value chain that you have a direct connection with startups themselves, or is that on the clubs or the entities that are represented in your membership structure?
So we decided to take a strategic positioning in the market where we do not wish to compete or interfere with deal-making activity led by bands. However, we do see a huge need with certain kinds of startups to
Hmm.
have international investors backing them. Therefore, we give visibility to select companies, typically the ones referred to by EBAN members that are fundraising, usually a seed round or a follow-on seed round, anyways, not yet a VC round, with the ambition to find good product market fit and hopefully scale beyond their local geography where they are. So we try our best to give visibility to those cases, have members refer the companies in their network that will benefit from international exposure to angels. And then during the two EBAN annual events we host every year, one being the Congress in June and the second being the European Angel Investment Summit each year in Brussels in October, we have member showcases, we have pitching sessions where these companies are presented, and then we facilitate meetings at the conferences. We have usually areas set up to do one-to-one meetings, meeting apps to book those meetings with investors and to help people find each other and do matchmaking and enabling the matchmaking. And we're super happy that there are also some success cases that come out of these interactions. And, personally, two of my investments I've made in startups were actually companies sourced through EBAN conferences and that were exposed and were given visibility at those conferences by angels that were leading these follow-on rounds and these additional funding rounds those startups were looking for.
Great. Thank you so much for the background over there, Jacopo. I'll request our community here, if you have questions directly, just write them and we'll bring them in. Because you also talked about a couple of your investments now, Jacopo. So I'll pick up one of the questions that came out. I'm curious to know. So Hussein has a question. I'm curious as to how Jacopo seeks out deals as an angel investor and if he has done syndication and how his experience is with finding the right investor groups himself.
So I've had the opportunity to co-invest in syndicates through direct connections, through people I work with or met at EBAN. And I would say these, for me, were by far the best deals I've been involved in. So referrals from friends that are angels that see a value in anyways also bringing you on board to a company they're investing has, in my personal experience, led to investing in a few really great cases. So my approach has always been to leverage as much as I can my network connections, the people I trust and know that have a lot of expertise in industries where I am not an expert in, and simply ask if there's any room to be a co-investor with them in a syndicate. So that's a bit my approach to doing it, but it really depends a lot. My case is relatively, the one of a small young investor, but I can say that most of the angels in our community typically source their deal flow through an angel group of their own that they're involved in. I would say a lot of the deals that get done typically come from the funnel of the Business Angel Club, a member of EBAN is a part of. But they also have their own other direct channels, as you can imagine. Some people sourcing startups from events they go to, some others are indirectly investing in startups by being
Mm.
LPs and VC funds. So there's a variety of approaches to this. But in my personal opinion, what has been really effective for me, and I know also for many others, has been joining angel groups and co-investing alongside more experienced angels that you're in good relations with and that you trust.
Amazing. I think that's a great learning for any investors out here who are listening in, that joining an angel group is a good way of forming your deal flow, at least initially, till the time you have enough recognition in the market that the deal flow automatically starts coming in, because that also it's a learning curve and it's a time factor as well. As you get more and more recognized as an angel investing name, it also starts automatically coming to you. But I'm,
True.
yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely true. And it's also a great way to build a decent diversified portfolio, acquire a ton of knowledge while doing so, because I think this has been another really enriching experience of being an angel investor alongside more experienced ones that are also open to sharing, their know-how with you. There's a lot of learning you acquire in the process, and there's a lot of things that um, you as a junior young investor may not see the first time you do deals. So I think it's a really important um, learning um, path to go down, which not only gives you also better deal flow, possibilities of making more investments, making a lot of great new friends in the process, but it also
Mm.
educates you a lot. So you can do maybe your next deals more in autonomy or
Yeah.
even leading them together with other friends that are still more new to the process. So I think that's really the best kind of uh, package of learnings you can get from being a part of an angel group, and the value really of being part of an angel group is definitely the deal flow, but it's also definitely a lot of other things you get in the journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that I, for example, because when you're part of angel networks, you get to interact directly with the angel investors. And one thing about angel investors typically is that most of them invest very locally. So, how does EBAN help them look beyond a very, very limited geographic circle or a radius? What are the ways for investors to look beyond their line of sight, for example?
Well, that's why we launched EBAN, really, to help investors
Mm,
also reach beyond their own local networks if they wish to. So
mm,
I think it's important to state that there's a lot of angels which are comfortable with investing only locally for a variety of reasons. That can
mm,
be taxation, legal, but also proximity to the company to help it and mentor it more closely. But there's also a lot of angels that seek to invest in the best companies in their industry or in the sweet spot that they wish to invest in at a global level. And what we provide as EBAN are the links to other angel groups that you, as an investor, can decide to be working with and a part of. And that's one way we do it. So we help refer angels that want to go cross borders and have in mind a specific market, which can be reliable partners on the ground to work with. And it's interesting to see that there are several cases of members that through EBAN end up joining one or more other angel investment group, part
mm.
of our association, thanks to simply meeting them at events we host or us introducing them, facilitating meetings and connections with them. So that's a main way to really do that in a sustainable and in a kind of strategic way, to join multiple networks. If you want to go across borders, the model we would recommend is to participate in multiple angel groups that align with the kind of investment activity you want to be involved in,
Okay.
and that allow you to co-invest with people that can also help the company locally speaking, whereas you may be sitting somewhere further away. And then the other approach is, of course, the events which I mentioned, which uh, do offer some opportunities in specific moments of the year. But throughout the year, EBAN has set up a few sector-focused, industry-specific communities. We call them
Okay.
our EBAN communities, and they go from the space and defense sector, which Ted from SweBAN is
Yeah.
our amazing chair of, to other communities that give really significant cross-border deal flow access in markets and technology sectors which are, let's say, not always commonly found in across all startup ecosystems. So we've decided to focus a little bit on the industries and on the technology areas where deal flow is not in abundance in all ecosystems. So space and defense was a clear one that we launched several years ago and is now, I would say, Europe's leading cross-border network, bringing together VCs, bringing together angel groups, all dedicated to space and defense and security technologies. But in that similar vein, we also launched EBAN Sports. So this specializes on sports technology, sports tech. We have an EBAN Health community as well. We're reformulating now our EBAN Impact community to go even more broader and target sustainability. But let's say we have set up these spaces for our members where they meet up regularly. They host online calls and in-person events with their own agenda of activity. In some cases, they've also established deal flow sharing platforms. So members can refer deals, other members can look at these referred cases by others in the community. And then we host a lot of activities case by case, depending on the community. Some of them are entailed more towards advocacy related activities, others are more towards formation and educational related activities. But let's say that we've made an effort to drive cross-border throughout the year, also on a vertical sector focus basis through the EBAN communities I was mentioning to you.
Very interesting point with the communities that you have said, because that brings a lot of focus and uh, like-minded pursuit of deals and collaborations which are non-geographic. So you take the geographic factor out and you have a vertical focus. So I think that's a great way. We actually have a question from Dr. Rana here. Is there a separate page for EBAN Health? Do you have these community
Yes,
pages, and how is that
of course.
integrated at the EBAN level, or is each community responsible for running their own? How is that? Is it like, how is the
Well,
structuring happening?
well, we have them really as grassroots communities, so they
Okay.
are member-led. And the nice thing about them is that they are led by a committee, which is
Okay.
formed typically by a handful, I would say up to 10 people who are the members that want to volunteer, that want to give more of their time to set the agenda of the community, the activities it is to do, the events, the conferences, the webinars, etc., that are to be
Mm-hmm.
done throughout the year. And then we give operationally support with the EBAN team um, to power and to make all of these activities, come to life. So it's a mix of both. They
Okay.
are content-wise and from a strategic point of view, led by members and typically also chaired or co-chaired with the involvement of one or more EBAN board members in the discussion.
Got it.
But then operationally speaking, they're powered by the teams, and from a audience perspective, all EBAN members are given access to the contents and to the activities really driven by those communities. So that's a bit how we've set this up
Got
over
it.
time. And let me put the page here for the eBud community so you can have a quick view of the ones we have and a bit of information about them.
I think that'll be great for everyone. And while you're doing that, I'm also I think we have another 7, 8, 10 minutes. So let's try to focus a little bit at the European scale now,
Yeah.
and try to derive some learning for our communities there. Like, what's your take on the state of angel investing right now, the momentum itself? Um,
Yeah.
as
It's
an
a,
yeah.
yeah, it's a market that stays alive and strong.
Mm,
But it does have, its fluctuations over the years. I would say the data from 2024
mm,
still shows, that the angel investment market has not yet reached kind of the height, the levels it had in 2020, 2021. There have been some improvements compared to 2023, but overall the activity has suffered a small, I would say, decline from some of the peak years we've observed more recently. The angel market is anyways quantified at around 1.5 billion euros in Europe, and that's statistics that we collect and we've been collecting for roughly 20 or so years. And what it shows is that the angel communities in Europe, depending on the geography they're in, are at varied levels of development. And of
mm,
course, there are markets uh, which have multiple hundreds of millions of euros invested every year by angels and startups, such as the
mhm,
UK, such as France, such as Germany. But then also markets where angel investment activity is very low, even compared to the size of the overall population and overall kind of size of the market. And that's unfortunately the case in some parts of Europe. What is kind of the latest trend in the angel market over the years is that when it comes to investing in pre-seed and seed stage companies, our share of that market has decreased from roughly two-thirds of the market size that angels were representing two-thirds of the capital given to startups, or roughly 10 years ago. Now it's about 50-50 with the VC community. So there's more competition from VCs on earlier stage deals than there ever was. And there is a need, of course, for the angel community, for the investors as individuals, but especially I'm talking about the bands, the Business Angel Network, the clubs, to improve and to get up to speed and to become effective in deal making, in powering syndication, and in enabling that within a reasonable time frame that for the entrepreneur, for the founder, does now compare, to what the VC world is able to offer them. So I think there's a big opportunity for our industry to seriously modernize how it operates, and also for the role of the ban to transition from being a matchmaker to being a true deal enabler, and to fundamentally enable syndication activities and streamline the processes from when the companies are knocking on the door asking for funding all the way to when the round itself is closed. And I think there's a lot of improvement that can be done by the bands in that space. Hence, at the beginning of this year, we introduced a brand new program targeting angel network managers, which we call the Band Manager Club. And what we do is we promote knowledge sharing between networks, so to facilitate a variety of day-to-day, issues and challenges band managers go through. But one of the big ones that we always discuss is what can we do to become enablers of deals and drivers of syndication activity for our members. And there's a lot of knowledge sharing, and there's a lot of angel groups that have already transitioned more into that space that we try to then convey to the community that is trying to adapt and to progress and evolve as this market has also changed over these years.
Very good points, Jacopo. I think we started off, if I summarize it for the community very quickly, that we are doing better than 2023, but not in the golden days of 2020 or 2021 when it comes to the quantum. But somewhere I run Founder Institute in Nordic region, and I had a talk with the Founder Institute global CEO, and we were doing this comparison of 2020, 2021. So one of the ways of assessing that data is that maybe those were anomaly years,
Yeah.
2020 and 2021. So maybe a stable comparison will be as we are doing with 2023, as you said. And you also talked about varied level of developments of angel mobility in different regions. I think I loved what you talked about, the share of angel investments declining from two-thirds to 50-50. And that's, I think, called for a major modernization. Because I think as ecosystems develop, matchmaking is something which probably was a great role up to 5, 10, 15 years ago. But now, really, it is if you have a very organized and expanding VC infrastructure, bands need to reach there in syndication, in all the great work that EBAN is doing, for example, with your brand manager club.
Spot
Very
on, Naimul. Absolutely spot on.
so this is really interesting to know. How can we on the other side, because whatever angels are doing, whatever VCs are doing, we are actually serving the startup side. And that has been something like if we take media somewhere in comparison, sometimes Europe is being compared to US, and it's coming like, is Europe fast enough to scale startups? What can we do there combined as an ecosystem to ensure we have a strong and scalable pipeline of startups in Europe?
That's a really good question that I know also a lot of European Union policymakers are
Mm.
scratching their heads on. And the answer is there's no silver bullet to fix Europe's long-standing, I would say, issue with enabling startup and scale-up growth. I think it's I it's going to be a variety of measures that happen. Some of them may be driven more by the European Union, some of them definitely needing also the drive from national, local governments that believe, first of all, that the startup economy is the future and is not the threat to the incumbents. And I think that's already a huge mind shift that we need to see changing more and more on the political side. What I can share with you is that the European Union, and I think also a lot of the member states across the EU, have never been so receptive to the world of startup entrepreneurs. And I think the big wake-up calls of last year, which were basically the reports issued by Mario Draghi and Enrico Letta on the topics, are now triggering a lot of reform and a lot of planning to enhance Europe's startup ecosystem, and on the other side also enhance Europe's venture capital ecosystem, including, of course, the world of angel investing. And among the solutions proposed, there's quite a few of them that you will find in a paper called the EU Startup and Scale-up Strategy. And that's the paper that was authored by Commissioner Zacharieva, who's the EU Commissioner for Startups. First time ever in history we have this role at the Commission. And it includes a variety of measures in there, which go from creating sandbox jurisdictions, namely the 28th regime, which I imagine some of you might have heard of, to reforming the relations with pension funds and institutional investors, so they also begin investing more in this asset class, to creating EU-wide startup visa programs to attract talent and to enable more people from around the world that have great business ideas and talent to come and realize them here in the EU. And there's a variety of other measures I won't be listing now, but that I can share are going to be work in progress for the European Commission between now and the next 5 years to come. EBAN was involved in the drafting of the EU Startup Scale-up Strategy, together with around 20 other associations that represent investment groups, that represent startup groups, research institutions, and similar. And I can share that, there's a lot of good intentions, there's a lot of great ideas, and like every good intention and great idea out there, it will ultimately boil down to the execution and how
Yes.
those concepts then really get implemented in real life. And so now is the moment where we're starting to see uh, the initial kind of ideas come out, and we hope to be working to set in place really meaningful reforms that we need. I would say probably one of the biggest ones needed is to create this level and common playing field, and where startups can operate and have then, and broadly speaking, an EU market to service. And that's really the 28th regime reform, which we're really hoping to see it come to light, not just soon, but also done in a way that makes it easy for companies to operate in this jurisdiction, and makes it fundamentally also better for investors to invest in such companies domiciled in this 28th regime. But I think time will tell, and there's a lot that can go wrong in the process, but we're, as a community of stakeholders, associations representing the market, we're happy to be engaged, and we're extremely vocal about what our ecosystem needs. And we see that our voice is at least being listened to now, which is already something positive. And we hope to stand by and give constructive feedback and ultimately shape these future reforms in a way that they are truly impacting and servicing and catering to the needs of our founder community, besides, of course, those that invest in startup founders like us.
Very interesting point, and I think it's a good closing point to the conversation as well. I think you mentioned it brilliantly. Startup economy is the future. As long as everybody realizes that, it'll become so much easier for us to all join forces and start helping startups. I think one of the things, because I coach a lot of founders, 700 founders every year, and a lot of founder talks. Today I was having, just before this talk, we had a fireside chat with Nornon, which is a Swedish startup in furniture as a service. So the point that is, on the startup side, the pain point is, whenever a startup is done in a single market like Sweden or France or anywhere, when they build a startup, when a company starts a startup, the question they face is it good to scale this in a single common market like US, or should we try Europe? And
Exactly.
then Europe is not a single market. Technically, there are geographies, there are regulatory differences. Even if we take a case like healthcare, it's so much different because you need to go country by country. So there's a lot to do. And you were absolutely right. It's great that we are now collaborating at a strategy and a vision and a structure and reform level, but the real test of this will be execution.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I think it all will come down to, like, how fast this can be executed and simplified and seamlessly done for the startup community.
Exactly. 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 Well said. And what will be also the process from government point of view to do that? Because a lot also can go wrong whenever you're doing things at EU level, depending on the process you take. So there's a lot of things that we're hoping to see done properly in the execution phase, and um, we're here to support and to stand by. But it does take a lot of willingness, I think, from also the political side. And this is where I think a lot can go wrong, to embrace these reforms, to see them as something needed and healthy for our economy in 2025 and for the future, but also for things like our security, our national security, strategic industries and technology areas, which we are not independent and heavily reliant on others around the world for. So there's a lot of things that I recognize politicians are waking up to, but I think it's also, up to us to help them see the
Mm.
need to go beyond the status quo mindset we've been having since many, many years now, which hasn't really benefited anyone here in the startup economy.
Awesome. I think that's a great point to close off the discussion. Like status quo mindset needs to shift to more enabling mindset, and I think that'll do wonders for the European ecosystem.
Yeah.
Jacopo, thank you so much for taking time out today and giving us a round tour of all that EBAN is doing and your take on the European angel investing startup. And in some cases, we also discuss venture capital. Thank you so much for taking
Thank
the
you so
time out.
much, Naimul. It was a pleasure to be with you guys. I want to give a shout out and an invitation to the SweBAN community and listeners with us that we're hoping to meet you and see you in person in the future. Our next big event is the European Angel Investment Summit happening in Brussels, where all SweBAN members also, by the way, get a special ticket deal to come. And in Brussels over the 2 days, we'll be discussing quite a lot about these new reforms that the EU is trying to implement, the reforms that are being targeted to business angels, so co-investment funds, specifically to support us and do deals with us. So join us at this event. I'll leave the website here in the link and reach out to us to get your SweBAN member ticket deal by writing to info@EBAN or by writing to Naimul, who can then sync with us and share with you this information. Thank you again so much for this invitation, and it was a pleasure to be with you. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you so much, Jacopo. Have a great day. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye bye.